Okay, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'll get started now. Just for your information, obviously, hopefully you can see that on screen. We are going to record this and put it on our YouTube channel in due course. So let's begin. Okay, just to start you all off, thank you for joining us this morning. Hopefully you enjoy the next hour or so. We're going to be looking at cloud-based design with BIM 360 and looking at the workflows that you can or you would be utilizing when using the product. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Gareth Spencer. I'm one of the consultants here at Man Machine. I've been in the industry for just over 22 years. I've got an experience of working for a large engineering firm, and also client side recently at the University of Manchester as a BIM manager, implementing that into their organisation. Been with Man Machine now for about 7 or 8 months as one of their technical advisors and solutions experts. My details are here on screen, so if anyone wants to get in touch or connect, please feel free. So for those of you who know Man Machine, you'll already know this, but for those of you who don't, we are a platinum partner across Europe and one of the largest across that region. We have around about 900 staff and 200 of those are engineers like myself. So today we're going to look at the following agenda. So this will be the workflows using BIM 360, how we can utilize Revit and link the information directly to the cloud and save that information differently how you would do before. So if you've used Revit for a number of years, you can see that we've been allowed to use the options and tools to save that locally on our server, but now I'll look at how we can utilize BIM 360 in the cloud. So for those of you who don't know, BIM 360 is an online application and there is multiple parts to that. But if you're an Autodesk user and you've been using the design suite, the AC collections, you'll see that you have multiple versions of software, and this software will link directly its information into the cloud. So if you're using things like Revit, AutoCAD, Civil 3D, etc., you can link that data directly into the cloud and utilize its functionality within the cloud to share, view, check and create issues within that environment. So for those of you who joined me at my last webinar, we looked at what BIM 360 has to offer in regards to the document management side. And today we're going to look at the design collaboration tools. So with regards to the design collaboration, we have multiple tools, functionality to help accelerate how we produce or work on our projects with this information. One thing that I certainly like is obviously that you can link it directly to your model, for example, with Revit, and work in a collaborative environment with multiple organizations out there. So, for example, you could be an architect working with the structural engineer, with the landscape architects, the building services teams, the contractor, you name it. It's all in one environment and it's easy to use. So I just want to give you a scenario. So here you would have the multiple people that might work on the project. So top left-hand side, you've got an architect, top right-hand side, you've got a structural engineer, the bottom left-hand side, you've got a building services engineer and a landscape architect. Normally, these people would work in their environments, off the cloud in their own office space and share the data through a CDE. Now, using things like Revit, which most people have been using for a number of years now, we can consider that we'll have a central model and that all the users would want to access that information. So whether that be the architect, who in this case we've called user A, the structural engineer is called user B, and so forth. Previously, before, you would have to share this information through some source of file sharing or upload and download from a CDE. This now gives us the option to consider how Revit has actually, and BIM 360 has evolved over time. So I suppose most of you who may be an old Revit user, you would remember obviously the general work sharing. So you would be saving it locally, for example, to a server and centralizing that file, and then multiple people within your organization can use that. From then, Revit Server came out, and you could allow the same sort of principles to work share within your environment using the Revit Server. And then C4R for Revit came out, so the collaboration for Revit, which allowed you to share the information into the cloud and do exactly the same thing, but in the cloud environment. And since then, BIM 360 Design Collaboration has came available. So this is the next generation where you're allowed to do exactly the same, but you're saving your files directly into the cloud so you can collaborate with all the other users on the project. So it's evolving, or has evolved over time. So if we take that into context, if we look at cloud sharing itself and work sharing within the cloud, we would share the model directly to BIM 360, which then gives us the option for users wherever they are in the world, whether that's, for example, in Manchester, they could be in Berlin, in New York. We can share and utilize that information from the cloud, and it doesn't have to necessarily be within your organization. It can be with the whole design teams, which then allows us to link that information directly into our models and collaboratively work together. So the structural engineer can upload their information, save it to the central file. Then when the architect does the same, they can link that data back and forth. And when they publish the certain packages, they can utilize that information directly from the cloud without having to wait for an upload by somebody else outside BIM 360. So if we take that context, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what I'm going to demonstrate shortly. So the setup would start with, we'd open up a BIM 360, we'd set up all the folder structure within Docs with all the appropriate folders, and then we'd assign all the team members to each folder appropriately inside there. From that, we would then take it to the next step where we'd operate BIM 360 Design, set up teams within there and assign members within there to each team. So each task team, for example, under the architecture would be one, under the structural engineers would be another. And then from that, we would take our local models from Revit, we would share them directly into the cloud. So we'd save the file, upload into Docs, and then from there we would take it as a central file that we can utilize for our design team internally, but also once we publish that information, we can make it available for the rest of the design team out there. So let's look at this, how it would generally work. So for example, if you're a organization, you're working on your model on a daily basis, you want to be able to share that information with the design team. So on the left hand side, you'll see here we've got our architecture team, we've got building services team, and we've got our structures team, all working on their own models, so they're work in progress models. We then take it to BIM 360, where we would allow us to save that information directly in the cloud. So each team would take a copy, they would save that into BIM 360 as, for example, a published model that you could utilize. But now, obviously, with the design collaboration tools, that allows us to take it one step further. We can take that information as a shared file and pop it into there, which then, once we've published it, it allows us to work with our other design teams. So you can see here, the architect has published their information, which has then been shared to the MEP team, who then shares their information directly across into the design collaboration. And you can see here the architect is continuous to publish their information with the examples of the circle here. And you can see as it's going along, the information is being published from each design team across into Docs and then into collaboration, which allows each user to work collaboratively together because they can easily share and link in that data directly into their models. As you can see, this is an ongoing process. So this is what it'll look like when we go in there. And again, I'll show you this in a bit more depth shortly. So you can see here, this is the model shared directly into BIM 360 Design. At the top of the screen, you have some what they call swim lanes. So you'll see here there's 3 companies or task teams, or however you want to approach it. You can see at the top we've got the MEP, the structures, and the architecture. I'm currently looking at the architecture model here. And what we'll be able to do is, using the information provided, and you can see here we've got some views on the left-hand side, we can then switch it down to, for example, a cut 3D view, which we've shared to the cloud. Then potentially add in further information that we've got. So for, in this case, some electrical information, i.e. the lighting. And then we'll be able to do some checking of what has actually changed within that model directly within the cloud. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to jump out of here now and show you a demonstration of BIM 360 Design and Revit. So the first thing is, I'm just going to pop up a copy of Revit on the screen. Okay, so this is a simple model here. You can see we're going to work with this model. We're going to upload it to the cloud, and I'm going to demonstrate how BIM 360 Design works. Okay, so just leave that there at this moment in time, and I'm just going to go back into BIM 360. So just like you would do normally, we'd add a project. So in this case, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put a project up. Okay, so I'm going to give this a project name. Okay, and I'm just going to call it Office. Going to give it a type as you would do normally. Okay, and we can put in, for example, the value. Now we're in the UK. So if I said, for example, this was a I don't know, a 1.2 million pound. Oops. Don't want to put a dot there. 1.2 million pound project. The start date is actually today, and we're potentially going to end this by 2021, and it's going to be February the 2nd. We can specify the location and the time. Now, obviously, we're in the UK, so we would specify Greenwich Mean Time, Edinburgh and London, and I'm just going to click Continue. So obviously this is setting up a new project, which you'll see in a second once it goes through the process. I'm going to activate my design, so my document management aspect of this. So I'm going to type in my email address, and hopefully it'll remember me. Yep, it has. I'm going to type in the company. So I'm Man and Machine. Oops, I can't spell. So Man and Machine Limited. Okay. So in there, I'm not going to set any folder structure here from any templates. What I'm going to do is utilize the ones that I currently have out the box. So this will be none. So I'm going to hit save here. So this is going to have set up my project in the background. I'll have a completely empty project and allow me to utilize this, directly here. Okay. Okay, so for some reason that failed. Let's just try again. Okay, it's worked. So what I can do as well, I'm just going to go down here to Design Collaboration, and I'm going to set this up at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. Again, I'm going to be the admin user on here. Okay, so I'm going to be the person that controls this environment for everyone to utilize. So again, I'm going to hit save. So this I'll set up both the design and the document management part of the modules for me to utilize and everybody else. You can see that's all done. So I'm going to hit finish. So now you'll see here is the new project. Okay, I'm just going to click on that and I'm in here. There's no other users. So at this moment in time, I'm just going to very quickly add in some users. Okay, so this person, Katsander's here, I'm going to add in. I'm going to add my colleague, Richard. He's going to work on this. I'm going to add Polly. She'll be a person that works on this. And also I'm going to put in a BIM man. He's going to work on this project. So you'll see here we've got people on this. Okay, so just going to change Richard's company. So you'll see here it's already picked up because they're already working on projects on here. You can see it's given me the roles that they're going to assign to. So I'm going to add them to the project. So that will now add them as members, so we can utilize this. Again, this could just be a docs environment. We don't have to use these for design, but now it's adding those people into there. Okay, so it'll set up the actual project with all these people assigned to that. Okay, so if I just go to the document management side of this, so I'm just going to switch over, and what you'll see in here, once we go in, it'll be completely blank. Okay, so there's no actual files or folders set up at present. and it's a complete scratch. Okay. Now the reason I've done this is I want to just to show you how you can set this up without having to have all the files and folders set up. So if you've already got a template, great. If not, we can start from scratch. So I go in here, I'm going to add a subfolder, and I'm going to call this Architects. Okay, and I'm going to set another one up, and I'm going to call it Structures. Okay, so you'll see here there's just two folders. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just to get the ball rolling, I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to get my model here, and I'm going to go File, and I'm going to Save As, and I'm going to go Cloud. So this will now look for the cloud location. Okay, so I'm hoping that it already picked up the location of where it is in the cloud. So this is just going to look for the cloud save location now within there. Okay, so I'm just going to switch to my hub, and there we go. So there's the new project. So I'll click on that, project folders, sorry, files, and go in here, and I'm just going to save it in. Okay, I'm just leaving the name as architecture for now. Obviously, you would name that appropriately. So that's going to save it to the cloud. And if I switch back into here, that will then put the file into this location. It'll take a few moments to load in, but while we're doing that, I'm just going to go back into my project admin. Okay, so this is obviously the location of where the project admin can set up how docs and design works and performs. Okay, so at the moment, I am the only user that's accessible with this information. Okay, so if you just bear with me a second while it loads up. Once it does this, what I'm going to do is show you how we can set up the services appropriately to work in here. So you can see in here, it's given me an activity report of what's happened. So at the moment, we've got two folders been set up by myself. I'm going to click over here on the left-hand side under Design Collaboration. Okay. Now while it does that, I'm just going to switch back into the Revit model. And you can see it's still saving to the cloud. It's at 54%. Okay. So switch back into here. So what this is doing now, before we can use design, we need to really set up the actual teams as part of this. So let's go into here. So first of all, I'm going to go Add Team. So this window will appear. Now what we could have done, actually, just click out of this. We've got a little button on the right hand side. It'll scan for new teams. And what that does, it actually looks into docs and see if there's any new teams in there that they could utilize for using design application. So I'm going to click on Add. So firstly, I can type in a name. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go MEP. And I'm going to go Add. So what this will do, this will now create this team, but also create a folder under design, sorry, under docs. So we don't have to create the folder structure, we can create it in here instead. And if I click on here, what we can do instead is, if we've already got folders, we can select them. So for example, I can select architecture, okay? And this will set the location and link it directly to that file. Do the same in here for my structures and click Add. Okay, so that's adding them in now. So you can see they'll appear in a second on the screen, and I'm going to click Close. So now we have these people, or these organizations set up, and they'll go into these folders inside docs. Okay, you can rename from here. So if, for example, you didn't want to call it MEP, you want to call it Building Services, for example, you can rename that, and it will just change the name here and display inside design exactly the same name, but without changing the folder name that's set inside docs. Okay. So before I go back into docs, I'm just going to go in here, and you can see here it's got one member. So I'm going to click on that. Okay. So firstly, you can see I'm the only person that's registered in here to use it. We've got permission levels. The permission levels work exactly the same as what's in docs. You can see here, view only, edit and view and edit, sorry, view, edit and share, view, edit, share and control. And I'm going to put full control on this one. So this is the architect, so I'm going to apply Richard to this one, as he's the architect. Actually, what you can do as well, for example, because it's an organization, I can apply the organization instead. So let's just remove Richard. So all people who work for this company, who are the architects, will apply them to here, and then they'll be able to work on this project with their permissions. Now, while it's doing that, I'm just going to switch back into Revit. Okay, you can see the model's now saved up to the cloud. Okay, so we have that file in the cloud. I'm going to do the same with my structures model here. So I've got another model open for the structures. Now bear in mind, this would not be me doing this. This would be the structural engineer. So again, I'm just going to go File, just so you can see what I'm doing with regards to the information in the cloud. So you'll see we'll have multiple models going up in the cloud. So again, it's looking for the location in the cloud. We're going to save this model up there so we can utilize this. Okay, so I'm just going to switch into the hub. I'm going to switch into the project I'm working on, the folders that I'm going into, and structures. Okay, now you'll see there's a consumed folder. I'll explain to you in a moment what that means and why that's there. So I'll leave that saving into the cloud. Okay, so I've just gone in here. You can see dynamic and now added. So if I click close, okay, I'm going to do the same for the structures team. Okay, so in here, oops, before I do that, I'm going to add the permissions in. So they've got there. And I'm going to add in the company so they can work on here as well. So I'm going to click add. Okay, so this takes a little bit of time to set up, but once it's done, you can utilize this over and over, and you can add more as and when. Okay, so I'm just going to switch back into Revit, see how we're getting on. So that's saving up there. It's at 60-odd%, so that should be there pretty quickly. Bear in mind, files that you have that might be larger will take a little bit more time. So I'll just leave that out for now, and I'm just going to switch back into Docs. So what you'll see in here, it does its thing. So yeah, what you'll see in here is we have now a new folder, or actually two new folders. There'll be an MEP one, and there'll be a shared folder as well. So while that's loading, what you'll be able to do is see what extra information it's provided, or folder structure it's provided as well. So how I demonstrated earlier, when I did my previous demonstration about docs, I set up a complete folder structure as you would be working where design's not actually utilized. So you can see here, we have the structures folder. It has a consumed file. We also have the MEP one, which it created for us. Again, it's got a consumed file, and the architect with a consumed file. So I click on the architects one. You'll see in here, there is the model loaded up. There's version 1, okay, and it went up this morning. So every time that they save that file directly into the cloud, that will update appropriately. Now the consumed file and the shared folder here are utilized by design. So when we're going to design, I'll show you what will happen and how that will populate further information within the consumed folder. Okay, so just before I do that, what I'm actually going to do, I'm just going to add some permissions to this folder here for the architect. So we're going to permissions. So if you've already used permissions before, you can see here we've already got assigned dynamic as the permissions. Okay, so I'm going to look at the MEP one, and I'm going to do the same principle in here. So I'm going to apply permissions. Hopefully that's worked. Okay, so you'll see here there's no other person or company assigned to that other than myself. So again, I'm just going to go in here and add the company. So hopefully we can find them. Okay, so I'm adding the organization, not just a person, but I'm giving them full control of that folder because that's that organization. So take this in consideration as this is your work in progress area. Okay, so that's now set up, and the structures one should be the same. Okay, so what I'm quickly going to do, while that's doing its thing, I'm just going to go back into Revit and see if that's saved to the cloud. Great, that's done that. So while I'm in here, I'm going to workshare this model here. So first of all, I'm going to go into workshare. So now we're working with this model directly in the cloud, and you'll see here a couple of things that you need to consider while you're doing this. Once that model goes up into the cloud and you workshare it, everyone who uses it needs a copy of design, okay? Otherwise they can't work on the model. So I'm just going to enable that. Okay, so that's now going to enable in the background. It's necessary workflows, and you'll see here on the little window, it's just enabling it in the cloud. So I'm going to go back into Docs. So first thing, I'm just going to quickly switch over to Design module. Okay, and then select Design. So that will now start opening up the Design module, like I showed you just shortly ago. So it takes a few moments to start up. Initially, it's just setting itself up, and what you'll see here, this is the window. Okay, currently I'm set to the architecture, so if I click on the shared, you'll see here we'll have the structures. Now at the moment, because the files are uploading, you won't necessarily see anything. So until we actually put any files into the cloud and publish them, we're not going to be able to see the information in here. So you can see this is completely blank at the moment. Okay, but you've got your swim lanes, and when you start to share information, you'll see a square or a circle which has been published or packaged information in here. So as it stands, this is completely empty. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to switch back into my account admin and show you one I prepared earlier, because it does take a little bit of time. Okay, so while that's switching over, I'll switch back into my model here. So there's my Revit model for my structures. Okay, I can synchronize this information. It will synchronize it to central as you would do normally. So every time you update the information, for example, if there's 5 people from your company working on this, it's updating the information from that central file so you can continuously work on that. Okay. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer because you're obviously working on a larger file. Now, one thing I want to do is publish the settings. So if any of you export drawings out in, for example, as DWFs or CAD files, you'll see this publish facility before. So what we can do is set a set of drawings, whether that's plans, sections, elevations, whether it's just views for 3D views, sections. And what this is doing is allow us to add the set to the cloud. So you'll see here there's one pre-set up. So if I go set 1, I would like to issue my 3D view, and I'm going to go with my level 0, level 1, and roof. Okay, I'm going to hit save. So what that's done is save into that set. So in the background now, when I publish that information to the cloud, it will publish those views directly into design for me. So I'm just going to go to my manage cloud models, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to set it to the project I'm working on. So what this will do, it'll push it directly into the design part. So I'm going to click on here. Take a few moments to do that. So I'll just go back into into docs, and I've got a project already set up. So I go into this one here. This is set up. We've got some people already assigned to that. I'm going to go into my document management first of all, and you'll see in here all the files uploaded. So I'll switch back into Revit. Okay. So you can see here I've got the architecture and the structures model that's been set up. Okay, I'm going to publish my structures model to the cloud. Okay, and this is going to go and publish it to design now. It's taking a few moments to do this. It's just updating it. Bear in mind, because I'm the only user that's using this, I can see the architecture as well as the structures model. If this was me, the structural engineer, I wouldn't be able to see the architect. Okay. So that's just doing its thing there. So I'll leave that to it. I'll come back to that in a moment. So you can see I'm just using the same environment or some environment that I used for my BIM 360 docs webinar earlier this month. And what you'll see is I've got the folder structure set up. And I've already saved some files in here. So you'll see under the structural engineer, I've got a model saved. Okay, it's been saved quite a number of times, and we have consumed folder. So what the consumed folder is a link to the folders, a copy of the folder, I should say, for the architecture and the building service engineers. So you'll see in here, if I go into this one, what it does is when the architect pushes the information directly into design and they create a package, I can consume that package and get a copy of that model. Okay, so this is the issued model for the rest of the design team to work to. Okay, now when I did the docs demonstration, I put in here just shared folders and worked as if you create your model or your information in here, this is your work in progress, and when you share it to a folder in here, for example, the structural engineer puts his information into this environment, that would just be a general share so the design team would see it. Now when it comes regards to design, it sets its own shared folder up, which you'll see in here. Every time the architect or the structural engineer or the building service engineer shares their files, it will pop a copy into here. Okay, so it works differently. So if you are using design, you may not want to use this kind of folder structure like I set up here. You would want to use just this one with the appropriate folders. Now can you see it's taken the name of the subfolder within there. So at present, you may not be sure, if that's the architecture or the building services or the structures models. Okay, so just bear that in mind when you're working with it. So if I go back into my design environment, and while that's loading, I'm just going to pop back into Revit. Okay, so you'll see here, I'm going to go into Publish, and it's probably still uploading, so it's taking a little bit of time. Okay, so I'll just leave that to carry on in the background. I'll go back in here. So obviously, I could sit there all day uploading and downloading information as much as I want. So what you'll see, if I just pop down the list here, okay, so this is the swim lanes. I'm currently as the architect here. I have two sets which has 6 drawings and 6 models. Okay, so what does that mean? So first of all, the sets are what I publish from Revit. Okay, so you'll see in here, I have my sets listed. So first of all, we've got the work in progress information. And then we have the coordination models, which are another set. So you'll see here, this has got views that have been populated. So you can see I've got plans of the model. Okay, I have a 3D view of the lower ground of architecture, which you'll see in a moment once it loads up. Okay, so you can see I can go in, I can view that data quite easily in the model. Okay, so it's back to its home view. There we go. Again, I can select it like you can do in design. I can put on the properties, in docs, I apologize, and you can see some property information. So it's still available to view like you would do previously. So if I just go, I'm going to minimize that one. Okay, I'm going to come out of there. So you'll see in here, we have the views that have been published by the architect and they can utilize them. Okay, so you can easily switch on the information. We have a few little icons at the side. You can see any issues created. Now at this present there isn't any issues, but if, for example, we can create the issues in here, we can change the visualization a little bit if we wanted to. We can even show changes. Okay, I'll come back to that in a moment. So if I just put the content browser up, so it allows us to switch through the appropriate views. So if we go to the top, you'll see here we have what we call swim lanes. Now again, because I'm the architect, the engineer, and the building services engineer, I can see all three, or I'm admin, I should say. I will log out and log in as somebody else in a moment just to show you obviously how this can work. So first of all, you have the team. So call is your task team, and then the swim lane, which is the appropriate project. Below that, you have a time bar. Okay, you can see here, I can minimize that down to minutes, days, weeks, years. Okay, so over the last 7 hours, can you see all these been here? So first of all, if I come over to this first one here, so you'll have published. What this allows me to do is when I've been working in my model inside Revit, I can be saving back and forth to docs all day long, so there can be multiple versions. But then I publish the information directly into here. You'll see it'll put a published on, and it'll give me a date and the model that's published. Okay. Where you've got the circle, that is one has been shared. So that's been shared, so the structural engineer, the building services, can see that package of information that I've shared with them, which could include all of these, or for example, just this one set. So if I just do a publish just to demonstrate, so I go on here, okay, you'll see what it allows me to do is select the set. Okay, so for example, I could just say, I got this one, we can give it a name, we can hit save. Okay, I'm just going to cancel that a second. What it allows us to do is then share that information. So before that, I'm just going to delete that one for a second. I just wanted to show you something else before I do that. So I'm going to switch to the structural engineer. Okay, so you'll see in here, they can go to this package here. Okay, and actually, if they, sorry, they're the shared, this package here, if I zoom onto that, you can see here the building services guys have issued this package here. Okay, so if you hover over it, you can see it's given a brief name. So it's basically telling me this is the package and this is the lighting. If I hover over this one, this is another package, but this is ventilation. Okay, so it's a different package that they've shared with us. So actually, I might need to view both of those. So what I'm going to do quickly, I'm just going to sign out as me, and I'm going to sign in as somebody else. So I'm just going to quickly come out of there, and I'm going to go into this one here, and hopefully, if it goes bears with me a second and comes in, Okay, so I'm going to sign in as somebody else. Okay, just minimize. Okay, so as I'm going in now, I'm going to sign in as a different user. So this user should be able to see different things in here. So they have rights and access to this project, but they don't have the administration rights that I had before. So as it signs in, I will go to the project that we're just briefly looking at, and you'll be able to see what's happening. So again, they'll have access to other projects if they've been assigned to them. So you can see here, it's just loading up on the project information page. So you'll be able to see what's going on. Okay, so apparently it's 24 degrees at the moment. There's no design issues. There's no issues to me, and the design package is on here. Okay, so that's the project I set up. Okay, so actually, if I go in, you will see in here, because obviously the project has been assigned to me, I can go in and see the information within inside docs. So again, while it's just loading, I'll just go back into Revit. Okay, so you can see it's done it. It's published it for me. Okay, so what this allows me to do is publish from here. Both models have been published, so they're in the cloud now, so we can utilize them. Okay, so those should now be in the design as well. So you go in here, you'll see I'm an architect as it stands. I can see the architecture model. I can see the shared folder, which in here, if I click in, there may be a structures model in there shared. Okay, no, it's not actually in there yet. Okay, so while I'm in design in here, what I can do, again, I can click on the model, and obviously I can do the general compare tools and look at the model information in here as I go along, and you'll be able to see that. So just a general visualization of the model, just like design will do. If it's going to open, it's just firing up now. It's just taking a little bit of time. Okay, I'll leave that to do its thing. There we go. Great, so there's the model that we created in Revit. It's in the cloud, you can see that. Okay, fantastic. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to switch across to the design collaboration. And again, while I'm doing that, if I go back into my model here, okay, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to select that beam, and being a structural engineer, I'm going to change that. I'm going to go to a nice big hefty one here. Okay, so this is obviously design collaboration working at its best. So I can just keep synchronizing this back to the central file, and this will save this directly into docs. Okay, it won't publish it into design. So I'm going to go back into here. So you can see here, I'm the architect. I'm just going to show my rest of the swim lanes. Okay, so I'm just going to my set. Again, this is taking a little bit of time, so it's obviously where the models are being uploaded. It's whether you can see the information directly. If not, I'll go back into the other project, so you can see it's loading up. So there's the architecture model. Fantastic. Can you see the swim lanes are completely empty apart from this one here? So if I click on here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click on this one. Okay, just to show you, this is the actual the shared file directly into the model. So you can see, you can view that, we can make comments, etc. So I'm going to publish a package. So if I go on to this point, I'm going to go publish a package. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this model. Okay, I'm going to give it a name. So first design model. So for others to utilize, I'm going to click on there. So that will appear for them. And I'm going to click save. So I'll save the package and I'll click share. Okay. First design model. Okay. So it doesn't have to be anything specific right now because it's the first model. It's just the initial design share. So that's going to share within the cloud. So the information will be populated in there. Okay. So you'll see the little circle appear. Okay. So that's now shared. That file will now be available for other people to consume. Okay, so just if I quickly switch to another project, just to show you the sort of principles. So this is obviously the other project to demonstrate at the moment, the one that's already ongoing. Okay, so again, if I maximize here, can you see there's the swim lanes, there's the shared area, these are the published files. Okay, I'm just going to click on my 3D views in here just to demonstrate this a little bit. Okay, so what I can do is I can go into here and look at my models. Okay, so if I look at the lower ground, I'm going to look at any changes that have been made. So for example, if I click on show changes here, it should do its thing. So I should go into here, it's going to hopefully load up and demonstrate some changes that may have been made by the architect. So can you see here on the left hand side, we have a little window that demonstrates what the changes are. So if I zoom in, so at this present time, you've got some highlighted in red, some highlighted in green, some in yellow. So if I just untick the green and the red ones, you'll see, sorry, the yellow ones. So you can see the green, there's 3 new added. So at the moment, if I zoom out, you'll see they have 3 new doors that have been placed in. So 2 new doors that have been placed in and a wall. Okay, we can actually hide any structure. So any structure is part we can hide. We can also hide the architecture as well. Okay, we want to do that. If I select this element, you can see it's telling me some data about that door or wall. Sorry, get it right. You can see here if I click on there, it's highlighted in the view as well. Okay, so just easily enough, we can see what's been removed. Okay, so this is looking at our model at this point. Okay, so I can then click into here, and you can see parts that have been published by others. So we can see I've consumed this information. So if I zoom out here, we have one that's been published. Okay, so we can see the model data that's been issued by other organizations. You can see it's not very clear at this moment in time, it's still loading, but this is the information shared and published by another organization. Okay, quite a poor view from the building services guys. Okay, but very simple, very easy to utilize. So I'm just going to sign out as that person, and I'm going to go back in as myself, okay, as Gareth. So I'm going to go in here. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to go back into the structures model. I'm going to share the model back up to the cloud, and you'll see a change there as well that's going to happen directly into BIM 360. So I'm going to click that and get it to share it in the cloud for me. Okay, so I'm going to sign in as myself. Just give it a second to start. Okay, and once I go in, you'll see I can go back to that project that we've been working on, that the architects have updated some information and published a set. Okay, so I need to give a second to load, and once it's done that, I can go in there. Okay, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to go to that project, just check on Revit. Okay, so that's publishing it to the cloud for me at the present. I do have some other models as well here. So for example, I have my building services model, which has ductwork in. Okay, again, it's not complete, but I can go and literally save that into the cloud. So I'm going to go File, Save As, Cloud. So again, this will be the building services engineers working on their information, adding it in as and when. Now, actually, you may have noticed I have the architecture model in there. So before I'm just going to save this into the location, but what you'll notice, as it stood, I was actually working on the model locally on my network, and my linked files were saved in the same location. And in a moment, once that's finished saving, I'll go back in and I'll show you that. So I'm in my cloud environment. So what you'll see, if I just go to here, can you see now there is a published, okay, from the architect. So I'm going to go and be the structural engineer. Okay, here's my structural engineer model, and you'll see again, well, actually this will be updating at the moment because it's publishing information into the cloud. So you'll be able to see the model will appear in a second. But what I can do, you see this now here has been shared by the architect. So I'm going to select it, okay, and I'm going to consume that. So what that's going to do is it will consume a copy of that model, and it will save it directly into the docs folder for me to utilize, which then allow me to link that information as an external reference inside my model. You do have here as well, for example, we can update to latest. What this will do, it'll set it on its way to make sure that it updates the latest information in here. On the right-hand side of that, we have a published one. So we can actually say, I want to publish on a weekly basis. I would like to do this on a Friday, and I would like to do this at a set time. So say we said 2 o'clock on a Friday as a default. Okay, we can set that as a publish, so it'll automatically publish. On the right-hand side here, we also have email notifications. So any new published files, we can get it to notify us, our team, that we have received one. Okay, and you can look at the status page as well, which will give you statuses of what's actually happening. You can see here the architecture was published, so was the structures one. Okay, so now that should be consumed. Okay, so I'm going to go across into Docs. Okay, just go back into my Revit model. That's now saved to the cloud. Okay, so again, I'd set the same process. I would set the work share. Okay, so more than one person can work on the project within this environment. Okay, so back into Docs. So you can see it's switching over to the Docs environment. Okay, so as we're going along, this is obviously working in the background and updating all the information from all the organizations working in here. So you'll see here's the architects folder, and the model should be there. For some reason, it's not showing. Okay, just give it a moment. There you go. So there's 2 versions currently of the model. If we look at the structures one, okay, we should now in that folder again. If I click into that environment, you'll see the structures model will appear. And if we go one step further, under consumed, there should now be an architect's model appear. Okay, so we've got a folder for architects, and then the architects folder will see there's the architect's model. Okay, so great, the model is there. So what that means is if I switch back into my model here, okay, I'm just going to close that down, into Revit, sorry. So before, if we, for example, I'm just going to go back into this model here, just complete that action. If I go into my linked part, so my manage links, okay, so normally you would download the file, you would save the information in one location, and you'll see the linked file is here, saved on the F drive. Okay. But I'm going to go back into my structures model, and I'm going to go insert, I'm going to link files. You'll see here I don't have one linked. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to link this directly from design. Okay, so I'm going to go add. Now, obviously, you can do this in multiple different ways. I'm just going to insert and adding it into the linked files. And hopefully, because I've set it up correctly, everything should be in the right location. So if I pull this in, so you'll see I'm going to my BIM 360 drive. I'm going into my project folder. I'm going to structures, not architecture, by the way. So I'm going to consumed, architects. I'm going to select the model. Okay, I can set the position if I like to. I know this should be okay, so I'm going to leave it as origin to origin. I'm going to click OK. The file will now connect itself in here, so you'll be able to use it. And once it's done that, I'm going to click OK, and then the model should appear inside my Revit environment in here. So bear in mind, it's just doing its thing at the moment to actually link the information directly into here. It may take a few moments. You can see it's just going through its actions. So actually it's saying there's a nested link currently of the structures model which won't appear. So I'm going to click close on that one. Okay, and then you'll see the file path has now changed to BIM 360. If I click OK, it's now linked the model in. Okay, so you can see at the moment, if I just create another copy of this, and once it's done that, I'll change it to a coordination view, and you'll be able to see there's my architecture model. Now, obviously, some bits aren't seen because they're probably turned off in the visibility graphics, which in this case, that's the case. So, you know, let's just select all, let's turn all on. Oops. Do like so. And hopefully everything will appear in a second so you can see that. And again, we can just work exactly the same way as we'll do before. For example, I can go into my link file. I can change what hosted information I want to see, because it's actually working in a linked environment. So I can go in here and say, well, actually, I want to do this custom. And for your information here, let's just turn off the walls, click OK, OK, and the walls of the architecture model will switch off. Okay, so you're actually working directly in the cloud. And once I save this back into the cloud, the information will remain. If the architecture updates and we consume their model, that will update as well directly into the cloud. Okay, and we can do this as multiple files. So obviously we can have it with the building services, furniture layout model, you name it. Obviously it will update. The more times we update it, the better for ourselves. Obviously we can utilize this. You can still use all the general tools in here as well. So if I go back onto the Collaborate tab, if you're working with multiple users, obviously on Worksets, you can use the editing requests directly in here. You can set up new published settings, so you can set up what information you want to. So if I go in here and say, let's do set 2, and within set 2, you can see we can set whichever. So for example, let's just select all, and if I click that, we now have 2 sets, 1 and 2. Okay. So when I save that up to the cloud, it'll be publish that to the cloud, it'll be slightly different. Okay, so I think that's a good brief overview of what design and docs can actually do for you and utilize. The next steps realistically for yourselves is to start looking at utilizing it itself. A couple of things I want to just point out before I move on a little bit is, if you're using BIM 360 and you're using Revit, for example, 2017, 18, 19, and so forth, you need to consider a few things. So if you're using 2017 or earlier, you can use the classic BIM 360 team. You can still use it with 2018 version 3, but that's when it switches over to docs and design collaboration for the later versions itself. So that's something to bear in mind for you guys. Some of you may have asked the question, or you're wanting to ask the question, is it available over here in the UK or in the European servers at present? Docs is available for everyone to use on the European servers, but design is still on the US servers at present, and hopefully will be in due course, a version will be set up in the European environment. If you want to, it's available free for 30 days to access and play around with, so feel free to do that. If you want some more information, there's some great locations online. So there's the BIM 360 site you can go to with a link here. There's also a resource center which has loads of great information that you can read and videos you can watch of how people are utilizing the software. There's also Connect and Construct. Again, it's another location which you can go on, and great information provided by Autodesk. And then you've got the release notes blog. I'd recommend you sign up to this because obviously Autodesk are constantly revising and updating design docs and all the other BIM 360 solutions. You may find when you log in, you might get some notifications of some changes, but this gives you an idea of what's actually changed. So you can actually see this, and you do get release notes on a regular basis. Can you see here from the screenshot? There was BIM 360 design collaboration update back in August. So I hope that you found that useful. We've certainly gone through, how we can utilize our Revit models. We can view information in the cloud. We can sync and work directly through a cloud environment. And bear in mind, you don't have to be sat in the office. You can be sat anywhere in the world and working on this, obviously, as long as you're working with Revit and utilizing the information. You don't even have to be a Revit user to use design. Design could be, for example, a BIM manager project, which is not actually producing the models. They're just a person that's publishing the data and working and looking at the clashing and anything that's changed within the model environments with everybody else. So for you guys, hopefully it's been great. Your next steps are, get in touch with myself, one of the sales members at Man & Machine, or anybody else within Man & Machine, and we'll get you on the road to utilizing BIM 360. Best thing to do is pick a project, get started. We're here to help. We're got a team of people that can help you with this. Our details are going to pop up on screen now, so please feel free to check out our website for some more information. Give us a call on the telephone number provided, and here's our email address if you want to get in touch. I hope you found